Hello everyone, this is Riccardo Masini and this is vlog. Okay, in this vlog I'm going to speak about the Musket and Saber quick play system which is published by Decision Games in its mini games series. So these are the famous Decision Games mini folios. Almost everyone else knows this series, knows it as a light war game, heavily inspired by the SPI classics like Napoleon's Last Battles and Napoleon at War and many others. Recently, Decision Games decided to publish another 4 titles in its minigame series with this system, and also a revised edition of the system itself. We are speaking about the Musket and Saber Musket and Saber quick play, which means the simplified version of the Musket and Saber full rule set. I have to say that I really appreciated this new edition, first of all because it is a general re-editing of the rule set. It is much more readable. There have been some adjustments and tweaks here and there, and also in the tables. So let me grab it. Here it is. You can find another thing, you can find the file for the quick play rules and also the title specific rules. This means the series rules and the title specific rules in the Decision Games website, and I'm very happy that the folks at Decision Games have finally discovered the PDF format, so it is not just in RTF format, which was okay, I could read it, but PDF is much better and it is much more later than 2000. Okay, anyway, this system, let's speak about this system. Oh, if I like this system. I don't just like the system, I really love it because it is simple, it is easy, it is fast, it is accessible, and let's be clear about this. I began playing war games 30 or between 30 and 40 years ago with games like that. This means this means simple, easy, accessible games that I could open up the box and begin playing them just straight away with limited duration of gameplay. I could get to play in 1 hour, 1 hour and a half maximum. I did not need to keep them on the table for days and days and days and spend 1 hour to get just 1 turn. Wow, those were games that I could open up and play after having seen a movie or having read a book or a novel about that particular battle. And voila, here I was in Waterloo, I was in Balaclava, I was at Shiloh, and I was at Gettysburg. And this was great, this was fantastic. Also, they were rule sets that worked, that had a very good playability, but also a plausible and acceptable level of historical simulation. And this series, in its latest edition, with all those problems of the first editions of the Musket and Saber system, well, this new edition really takes me back to those days. So those are games that are fantastic for both a newcomer to the wargame hobby, and this is a really accessible, not just in words, but really accessible system for wargames that everybody can play it. It has 5 or 6 pages of rules, which means even one of your friend or your wife or whoever of your partner who has never played war games can grab them and begin playing them without any difficulty whatsoever. Also, the very Small format, very portable. You can bring them in your holiday house, in a hotel, wherever you want, in a convention. They are great. Have just 40 counters at the maximum. Small rule set. The series rule set is 6 pages long, with the tables also, and the game specific rules are a couple of pages. Also, they have quite good components and quite good graphics too, so they're very nice to put on the table and begin throwing out counters and begin playing, and they are also quite attractive. So those are the very good points of this system. What are the possible issues that stay in this system? Well, first one, it is a classic X encounter, which could be good if you want to teach or get back to the very basic, very essential principles of war games, of classic wargaming, but it is not so much more than a classic X encounter war game. So it is not a big leap forward in respect with the Napoleon's last battles. There are, however, interesting details more. In addition, there is the counterattack dynamic, which creates a lot of interaction. If you do not attack all the units that are adjacent to your units, the enemy units which have not been attacked during your turn can counterattack with a huge bonus if they want, which means you have to be careful. You have to make diversionary attacks, which is very good, very interesting. There is a good interaction between infantry, cavalry, and artillery. There are lots of small details. The morale in combat, you roll for the combat resolution, but also for the morale of the losing unit. And if the losing unit fails its morale tests, the losing unit suffers even worse results from the combat, which is very good. However, all those small but very effective addition to the classic wargame system, well, they're not so fluid, they're not so streamlined, they create some bumps here and there. Another problem, all the titles are individually very characterized, they're very recognizable. However, they are also quite small, especially Hougoumont, but also the others have small maps, not so many counters, which can lead to problems in replayability in the long term. From an historical standpoint, another problem is that the system is derives from Napoleonic wargaming, Napoleon's bases, Napoleon at War, and this shows especially in the titles after the Napoleonic era, like Balaclava, but most of all in the American Civil War scenarios, which means those scenarios where troops had a higher lethality, rifle fire, a better artillery, and so on. So, well, they might seem strange with all those advances and retreats back and forth, and not so many losses, not so many permanent losses. Most of the losses are just temporary, and there are small distortions here and there, and there are also small distortions here and there also in some scenarios, especially Shiloh and later on top. I've read critics about historical maneuvers who could not be executed in the game, or problems in the definition of the areas covered by the scenario. Okay, those are not 100% accurate, totally detailed historical simulation. Why? Because there is a trade-off between total historical accuracy and playability. Those are more on the playability side, but their historical simulation value is still there, is still valid. However, you as always, you must be aware of what you are going to buy and also to play. Also, the visuals, the graphics, well, they're very readable, but they're very essential. Sometimes I wished for a couple pages more in the rules, or a player aid. There is not a player aid, which means you have a terrain key identifying the different terrains, but you do not have a terrain effect table. The terrain is just all the terrain effects are just explained in text form, in the special rules, but you have to read each rule to remember what happens when I'm on a hill, behind a river, inside the town or a chateau, etc., etc. Also, the different status of the units in effective, disrupted, etc. There is not a table remembering you everything, all those effects. You have to read them again in the rulebook. After a while, it becomes intuitive because there are not so many rules. But well, this can be an issue. But most of all, even if those residential war games are very playable and so, they're not revolutionary titles. They're not a big leap forward, as we already said, in respect to Napoleon's Last Battles or traditional X-Encounter war games. They are very classic in that they seem to have been taken out of the SPI catalog of 40 years ago, which for me might be a good thing, but may not be an advantage. But for many others, do not expect great news on this side. Concluding, the different titles are all very interesting. Hougoumont is they are all small episodes and small pictures of larger battles. Hougoumont is a small picture, is a fight in the Waterloo battle, during the Waterloo battle for the key Hougoumont position. It is the smallest one, and it is a game where you have to carefully manage your different attack waves and defense reinforcements. Balaclava, you see it is the more dynamic, more interactive, most dynamic, most interactive of them all. It is dedicated to a battle known by many just for the charge of the light brigade and so, but it is there are a lot of things happening. There are redoubts to be conquered, special troops, Cossacks, Turkish regiment, interaction between infantry and cavalry and artillery, lots of things to do. Very, very fascinating and stimulating. Hornet's Nest, Shiloh, which is how you remedy to a problem as big as the Mississippi, as large as the Mississippi. Half of your army is in the wrong spot, and it is assaulted by surprise by a very determined foe. So the Union player must compensate, must remedy to all the troubles here and there in the battlefield, while the Southern player, the Confederate player, must attack, but also it has not so much time. It is very dramatic, and also the Confederate player has the trouble of attacking in an almost impossible terrain. You have forests and rivers and everything against you. Wow. I hope that my camera is still working on. Okay, it seems so. I got carried myself. Last thing, Little Round Top, Gettysburg. Okay, you'll remember Colonel Chamberlain, bayonets, and down the Little Round Top, Gettysburg, everything. Of those places, I've been at Waterloo, at Hougoumont, and I've personally been at Little Round Top. In Hougoumont, I got stuck in a jeep in the mud of Waterloo, and at Little Round Top, I almost broke my ankle while climbing atop the Little Round Top. So I have a very personal experience with all those battlefields. Little Round Top is probably not the most interesting in a tactical sense. It is a frontal assault against a very protected defensive, very strong defensive position, but it has a lot of dramatic moments. And after all, it is Gettysburg. There is nothing wrong in playing Gettysburg again and again and again. So those are the four scenarios. Getting back to the system, decision games this time made it right, because we all know decision games are a bit contradictory. It makes good products and other products with more problems here or there. Well, mostly I'd say the decision games this time got it absolutely and totally right. They re-edited the system, they got it back on track. It is very interesting, very good. It works, the tricks are good, the new scenarios are interesting, and also you can retrofit this new edition of the system to the other minigame series titles that have already been published, but also you can retrofit also to the log folios with the same system, the Musket Saber full system, which is a bit more cranky, a bit slower, a bit less dynamic, while this quick play version is much more balanced, and for me it is much more interesting and especially much more playable. With some adjustments you can play those bigger games with very interesting scenarios also with this rule set, this quick play rule set. But there are a lot of minigame titles natively using the Musket and Saber titles, especially those about the Mexican-American War, which is very interesting. I remember Molino del Rey and others, but also the other Napoleonic and Civil War titles as well. My final advice, so those games are cheap, they can be easily found here and there, everywhere. They are accessible, they are easy to get on the table, they are fast playing. So my advice is buy at least one or two of those 4 titles, see if you like the system. But I think that you will like it, because after all it is the system that all of us we began wargaming with so many years ago, and then see if you like it. I'm sure that you will end up buying all those 4 titles and getting back also to the previously published titles in this series. They are great to begin your wargaming journey. Also, if you by chance are an international gamer who has never played any war games, and by chance you have finished on my Italian channel, I don't know how this could be possible, but this could be possible thanks to the crazy YouTube algorithms. Okay, if you want to start your wargaming adventure, start from one of those 4 titles, or also all of them. They're very cheap, they're absolutely not expensive to buy. But also, if you are a veteran, if you are a gamer which, like myself, are wargamers since many years, well, those games will take you back to your first and very emotional approaches to wargaming. They're fun, they're incredibly fun, they're quite well balanced, they're very interesting. You can play them in 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. You can get them easily on the table when you have some time here or there. They are good also, they're good filler war games for veteran grognards. For me, they are very recommended purchase, absolutely recommended. For me, this time, decision games really got it right. And if I love traditional wargaming, if I love traditional SPI titles, but this, maybe you've already guess that by yourself, what are my tastes. So this has been my video about the Musket Saber quick play new titles, Musket Saber quick play new titles, and so I say goodbye to you, and as always, Don't be scared, it's just war games. Bye! Or, even better, ciao!